December 20th, 1943. Over the frozen skies of northern Germany, a crippled American B-17 bomber limped home from a failed raid. Its tail was shredded, one engine dead, blood on the glass. Inside, 10 men fought to stay alive. The pilot, 21-year-old Charlie Brown, struggled to control the plane, knowing they wouldn't make it. Then, out of the gray sky, appeared death itself, a German fighter closing in. But what happened next would defy everything war stood for. The German pilot was Franz Stigler, a Luftwaffe ace with more than 24 kills. He'd just refueled and was minutes from returning to base when he spotted the dying bomber. It was barely flying, tail gone, engines smoking, gunners silent. It should have been an easy kill. But as Franz approached, something stopped him. Through the bullet holes in the fuselage, he saw the crew. One man trying to bandage another slumped over the guns, bleeding. These weren't enemies anymore. They were just boys fighting to survive. Franz's finger froze on the trigger. Instead of firing, he did the unthinkable. He flew closer, so close that Charlie Brown could see the black cross on his wing. Inside the American cockpit, panic spread. "Here he comes!" one of the gunners shouted. But their guns were jammed, their ammo gone. They were defenseless. Franz lined up beside the bomber and simply looked. Two pilots, enemies on opposite sides of the deadliest war in history, now staring at each other through cracked glass. And then Franz saluted. He tilted his wings, signaling, "I won't shoot." Charlie couldn't believe it. He watched as the German fighter took position just beside his damaged tail, not to kill, but to escort. Franz knew the bomber was flying over German territory. Anti-aircraft batteries below would finish the job. So he made another impossible choice. He risked being mistaken for a traitor, for protecting the enemy, and guided the B-17 toward the North Sea, away from German guns. At the edge of the coastline, he looked once more, raised his hand in salute, and turned back toward Germany. The American crew watched in stunned silence. Their enemy had just saved their lives. When Charlie Brown finally landed in England, his superiors were waiting, expecting a routine debriefing, but when he told them the truth, that a German pilot had spared them and escorted them home, the room went cold. His commanding officer cut him off. "Never speak of this again," he said. "If word gets out, other pilots might hesitate to shoot. Mercy has no place in war." And so the story disappeared, locked away by silence. Charlie finished his missions, returned home, and built a new life. But he was never free. For years, he had nightmares, the guns, the explosions, and that German pilot's eyes. Who was he? Why did he spare us? Was he punished for it? The questions haunted him for 4 decades. Meanwhile, Franz Stigler, the man who had shown mercy, also stayed silent. In Hitler's Germany, sparing the enemy was treason. If his superiors had found out, he would have been executed. So Franz buried the memory and lived with it in secret. After the war, Franz moved to Canada and became a businessman. He built a new life, far from the ruins of Europe. But sometimes, when he looked at the sky, he thought of that battered bomber and wondered if anyone inside had survived. 2 men, on opposite sides of the world, carrying the same memory. One of mercy, one of gratitude, both searching for peace. It would take 47 years for their paths to cross again. In 1986, Charlie Brown, now 64, attended a reunion of World War II veterans. When someone asked if he had any memorable missions, he finally told the story for the first time. The crowd fell silent. Then someone asked the question that would change his life. Did you ever try to find him? That night, Charlie couldn't sleep. He realized he had to know. Who was that man who spared them? He began searching, writing letters to Air Force archives, German veteran associations, museums, even newspapers. For 4 years, he found nothing. The records were destroyed, the names lost. Until one day, a letter arrived from Canada. The envelope was small. Inside were 4 words: I was the one. The writer's name: Franz Stigler. Charlie froze. The impossible had happened. After nearly half a century, he'd found him, the German pilot from that December morning. They spoke on the phone, both crying, both laughing like old friends. And when they met face to face in 1990 in Seattle, cameras captured the moment 2 enemies became brothers. When Franz stepped out of the car and saw Charlie, he ran to him and embraced him. "I love you, Charlie," he whispered. Both men wept. Charlie introduced Franz to his crew, men who lived because of that single act of mercy. They showed him photos of their children, their grandchildren, lives that existed only because Franz chose humanity over duty. That day, the war finally ended for both of them. In the years that followed, Charlie and Franz became inseparable. They traveled together, spoke at air shows, and told their story to schools and veterans. When someone asked Franz why he didn't shoot, he would quote his old commanding officer, Gustav Rewrote, "If I ever see you shoot at a man in a parachute, I'll shoot you myself." Franz explained that the B-17 crew was no different, helpless, bleeding, unarmed. To kill them would have been murder, not war. He said, "You can be a warrior and still be human." Not everyone understood. Some Germans called him a traitor. Some Canadians couldn't believe a former Nazi pilot could be a hero. But Franz didn't care. He and Charlie had found something beyond politics, beyond sides, something the war had almost destroyed: human decency. Before parting one day, Franz handed Charlie a book. Inside, he'd written, "In 1940, I lost my only brother as a night fighter. Thanks, Charlie. Your brother, Franz." Their friendship lasted 18 years. They spoke every week until the very end. In 2008, Franz Stigler died in Vancouver at 92 years old. 8 months later, Charlie Brown followed at 86, thousands of miles apart, but forever connected. The men who met for 10 minutes in combat became brothers for life. Their story became a book, A Higher Call, read by millions around the world. But the true legacy wasn't fame. It was proof that even in the darkest war, humanity can survive. Franz once said, "I could have destroyed them, but I didn't have the heart to finish it." And Charlie said, "He was no enemy. He was my guardian angel." 2 pilots, 2 sides, 1 act of mercy, and a story that reminds us. Sometimes the greatest victory is not in taking a life, but in choosing to save one. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking and subscribing for more tales of courage and compassion. We'll see you in the next one.